is a huge story. According to a new report in the Intercept, a secret diplomatic cable demonstrates that the Biden administration pressured Pakistan to remove its prime minister for failure to toe the line on the war in Ukraine. But now is the Pakistani government censoring this very report. Now, we've reached out to the White House for comment, and we'll keep you all updated on that front. But until then, here to discuss in more detail is the reporter at The Intercept, Murtaza Hussein. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Murtaza, walk us through what this letter, this document actually says.
So this document, which is known in Pakistan as a cipher, has been the center of a very serious political crisis of the past year and a half over the removal of Imran Khan. The document itself deals with a conversation between a senior State Department official and at that time the Pakistani ambassador to the U.S., where the State Department expresses extreme frustration with Pakistan's aggressively neutral, the term they use, stance on the Ukraine war under Khan, and encourages the Pakistani side, also even threatens them that if Khan is not removed, Pakistan would face, quote, isolation.
And to be clear, Khan at the time of the Russia-Ukraine war breaking out, I believe he was meeting with Putin, something that infuriated the U.S. government. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's mentioned in the document itself. The Pakistanis were very upset that Khan had been in Moscow on the eve of the invasion, something which Khan said he didn't know about earlier than that. And they had said that if Khan remains in power, well, the State Department officials said two things, that we believe this policy of neutrality is Khan's policy personally, and not that of the broader government by implication, or the Pakistani military, which is known to be one of the real power players, or the main power player in the country. And if Khan was removed, the State Department official added, the dent that had been created in the relationship can go away, and, quote, all will be forgiven. So it was a very strong green light and encouragement for the removal of Khan. In the document, the State Department doesn't say, go remove Khan right now, and this is an order. But they pretty much give every form of encouragement in the form of threats and positive reinforcement, saying that if he stays, things are going to be very bad between us. If he goes, things will be a lot better.
And Khan has been, can you give us more details on the removal of Khan? And I see that he's being charged now as for corruption charges and is facing prison time.
So Pakistan has elections scheduled for later this year, and Khan is the most popular politician in Pakistan. Polls show that if he were allowed to contest the elections, he'd win very handily. These charges, corruption charges against him, are widely believed to be an effort to stop him from contesting these elections. He's already been sentenced to 3 years in jail with a 5-year ban from politics. And now, this is very important, with the disclosure of this document, the Pakistani establishment, the military junta now controlling the country, has fought very, very hard to stop this document from coming to light. And they're blaming it on Khan, even though, as we specify very specifically and very clearly in our story, it's a source from inside the military itself, which is disillusioned with the crackdown, disillusioned with the attacks on democracy and the impact of that on the military itself, who gave it to us. They're blaming on Khan specifically because they'd like to add more charges, which could have even more grave implications for him beyond not being able to have freedom for the next few years and being banned from politics.
I mean, this is an incredible story with incredible implications. It has resonances of what we saw in Brazil with Lula's imprisonment, someone who was popular and likely to win an election, only prevented from doing so because of a kind of allegedly fake or exaggerated legal charges. But this one has the added dynamic of having what looks like pretty clear evidence that the American government, the U.S. State Department, was basically picking and choosing the leader of another country. And then not only that, but doing so on the basis of their, quote, aggressively neutral position on the war in Ukraine. You're right, it's just a little bit of background that the day before the meeting between the U.S. State Department official and the Pakistani official, that Khan addressed a rally and responded directly to European calls that Pakistan rally behind Ukraine. Quote, Are we your slaves? Khan turned to the thundering crowd. What do you think of us? That we are your slaves and that we will do whatever you ask of us? We are friends of Russia, and we are also friends of the United States. We are friends of China and Europe. We are not part of any alliance. That is the kind of statement that provoked the U.S. to say, we get to pick the leader of your country?
You know, Bree, the chronology is really amazing because that statement happened before this meeting. The next day after the meeting, the opposition advanced the very motion which led to his removal from power. So it all happened in quite a compact time frame. And, you know, this policy of neutrality, which the State Department was criticizing on behalf of Khan, has now been discarded entirely by the Pakistani side. They've emerged as a major supplier of weaponry to the Ukrainian military in their war against Russia, brokered by the United States and European allies as well too. So Pakistan's no longer neutral. They're clearly on the Western side of the conflict. And the neutral policy, which Khan and many other countries in the region had tried to chart, Pakistan is now out of that circle now. They're clearly in the Western camp. So in a way, you know, if you take the most charitable interpretation of the State Department's actions and comments, and I'll add that in this cable, like typical of the many intelligence cables, there's a summary analysis by the person filing, in this case, the Pakistan ambassador. They clearly saw it as interference and described it as such. If you take the most charitable interpretation that they're simply expressing a view, they still managed to sway Pakistani politics in such a way that they've resulted in the effective annulment of democracy, the removal of a popular politician who's now in jail, and the reestablishment of military hegemony in the country, which the U.S. has now not just silent on, but actually facilitating by continuing to deal with the Pakistani military in cooperation in this foreign conflict.
Are there that many elements of the government who participated in the effort to oust Khan who were fearful or desirable of closer favorability from the U.S.? You know, given that obviously this wasn't just like, I mean, he wasn't assassinated, right? He was taken out by a group of military officials. The court officials obviously have to be are involved in the process to do these corruption charges. So is there some kind of broad desire among the non-Khan faction of the government to have a more favorable to the U.S. policy?
You know, there's a joke in Pakistan that the country rests on the pillar of 3 A's, which is Army, Allah, and America. So the view of America is considered very, very important in the configuration of Pakistani politics, almost to the extent that the U.S. is part implicitly of any governing compact as a major stakeholder. So the fact that the military really wants to be seen as useful to the United States, it's a source of cash for them during the Cold War and political support, and it was again during the War on Terror. Now those two eras are over, or at least the War on Terror is winding down considerably. We're in a new era. They want to make themselves useful again, and they didn't want to fall out with the United States because they viewed it as a source of resources and patronage. And this neutrality was basically a threat to that. And now that that's out the window, this relationship where the political economy of Pakistan is sustained through military rule can continue with outside support. So really, if you look at Pakistani history, there's been a lot of a lot of prime ministers who've died under weird circumstances, have been executed, have been imprisoned, have been barred from politics. The U.S. has always had some role in that. They've had some role in their relationship with the military as a conduit for that. So it's very rare that we ever have documentary proof like we have in this case with this cable. And the fact that we have this proof is why it's caused such a stir in Pakistan, because normally there's some level of deniability to this relationship, the sordid reality of this relationship. But now it's been laid bare for all to see. And as long as the U.S. has this relationship with the Pakistani military, it's going to remain as one of the decisive players in Pakistani politics, which ultimately is to the detriment of Pakistani democracy. The U.S., for all its importance, is not written into the Pakistani constitution.
Yeah, Murtaza, we also have to get into this. You talked about the fallout in Pakistan, the response to this explosive story. I see people online saying, posting screen grabs that seems to be evidence that the story itself, the Intercept's reporting, your reporting, is being censored in Pakistan?
Well, that's right. There's something very important to keep in mind, that the Pakistani military junta is believed to have killed 2 people to stop this cipher from coming out over the past year. One was a journalist named Arshad Sharif, who was assassinated in Kenya. Another was a gentleman named Imran Khan, a Pakistani journalist. He's not known to be dead yet, but he disappeared a few months ago, and no one's heard from him. His family's not heard from him, so his fate is very, very unclear. They've gone to extraordinary lengths to stop this from coming out. They've arrested thousands of people. Khan himself has been threatened over this document. They don't want it to come out, and they don't want Pakistanis to see it. Now, suddenly, because of a leak inside their own institution, has come out. And the last thing they can really do is just to throttle the internet, throttle the Intercept's website. I think that effort is creating a bit of a Streisand effect. The cat's out of the bag at this point. But yet they're doing everything they can to prevent its disclosure, which I think is also a testament to its importance and veracity as well, too. If this was a nothing burger, if this was not as serious as some of the detractors and critics have claimed who are aligned with the military, they wouldn't need to do this much to stop it. But now that it's out, they are in a lot of trouble, and the last-ditch effort is to block the internet, which we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and Ryan Graham, obviously our former colleague, your co-writer on the story at The Intercept, he tweeted this morning that Pakistani police are pursuing Imran Khan's attorney on the highway, and he's vowing not to surrender without a warrant. Dystopian scenes unfolding. Do you know anything more about what's going on there?
Unfortunately, Pakistan has always had, despite attacks on the press and, constraints from the military, it's had a pretty robust civil society, a robust press, a robust judiciary, legal scene. That's all in the past few months being suppressed to a degree you've not seen maybe in generations, maybe ever. It's a burgeoning totalitarianism. So you see lawyers, politicians who don't toe the government's line being arrested. Today, as you mentioned, Imran Khan's lawyer was almost arrested. And I do believe that through their efforts to falsely pin the story and the disclosure of the cipher on Imran Khan himself, you may see very, very grave steps taken against him and people close to him. In Pakistan, the penalty under this proposed Official Secrets Act the military is pushing forward for treason is very grave. It could be loss of one's life. So I think that, you may see only the beginning right now of a far worse crackdown to come, which would mean the final end of democracy in Pakistan for the foreseeable future, which unfortunately is being met with silence by the U.S. State Department and White House, despite what seems to be their own involvement in setting the circle of events in place.
And very much despite constant rhetoric about the need to foster democracy, even by using American dollars for weapons to do so everywhere around the world. Murtaza, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.